What's up with that little freak balloon boy? Look, love him or hate him, he's never really fit into any cast he's been a part of. In FNAF 2, one of the biggest casts of any Five Nights at Freddy's game, he sticks out like a sore thumb. Sure, the puppet's weird too, but he is the only thing that looks human and doesn't directly attack the player. I never really gave it a second thought besides, that's weird. But earlier this week, I put out a post asking for ideas for videos, and mayapininons7472 said, quote, "Theory on Balloon Boy. Yes, he sucks, but what's his deal? Is he possessed? Is he some early experimentation of remaking Crying Child? For real, for real." And you know what? That's fair. So I did some digging on Balloon Boy, and I am not exaggerating when I say what I found completely reframes his entire character for me and may even give us some pointers to what the next Steel Wolf FNAF game is going to be. I'm not kidding. So slices, put on your aprons, and let's bake ourselves a theory. Like I mentioned, in the FNAF 2 cast, Balloon Boy and by extension JJ stick out like sore thumbs. They don't stylistically match anything else in this game. Sure, they have the same cheek dots that Toy Freddy does, but that's it. These things are meant to look like humans with bright stripy pants. They even act differently, opting to steal your flashlight instead of directly kill you, or like JJ, just show up sometimes. So why does that matter? Well, at this point, it's practically confirmed that the marionette came from an earlier Freddy's restaurant and wasn't built for this location. We see it in the security puppet minigame where it chases after Charlotte Emily shortly after she's killed and then collapses on her because of the rain. That's when Charlie possesses the puppet. Due to the other angle of this event from Give Cake to the Children, in this very game, FNAF 2, it seems like this event happened at either the original Fredbear's or maybe the early Freddy's location, both of which were opened several years before the FNAF 2 location. Not to mention, the Wizards are here. They are directly stated to be brought over from an earlier Freddy's. So if they did it for the Wizards and they did it for the puppet, who's to say they didn't do it for Balloon Boy? Well, if they did, where else have we seen Balloon Boy in this franchise? Right away, we need to knock out things that don't help us place him in the timeline, which would be Ultimate Custom Night and FNAF World. These are dubiously canon at best, and what I mean by that, they definitely represent canon events in the timeline, but the placements of characters within them doesn't really matter. Ultimate Custom Night characters exist because the vengeful spirit willed them into existence. It's pretty much directly stated that, so none of these characters are real. Not to mention, they definitely happen at least after FNAF 2, so it doesn't help us. FNAF World is very similar. I personally believe that FNAF World was created by Charlotte Emily to help the rest of the souls move on after the FNAF 6 fire, sort of like a Happiest Day Part 2. That being said, this also takes place well after FNAF 2, and even if it didn't, because this is created by Charlotte Emily and not a real-life thing, Balloon Boy, JJ, and DD being here don't necessarily matter, let alone things like Ball Boy. FNAF 4 is similarly unhelpful. Granted, Nightmare Balloon Boy does exist in this game, and Scott did confirm that he is one of the canon characters of the Halloween update, but we also see several other toy designs in these minigames, notably Toy Chica. So the theory goes that the toy designs existed long before the FNAF 2 location. The toy animatronics were modeled as such because they were literally modeled after what the toys of these characters looked like. That makes a lot of sense. Not to mention, if you believe the theory that the FNAF 4 gameplay is Michael's nightmares after going through the experiments that William Afton did, then it doesn't really matter where you place it on the timeline. These nightmares would have recurred for a long time, especially after Mike knew about FNAF 2. Hell, these nightmares could still be happening if Mike is somehow alive. I don't think he is, but you get what I mean. Hell, if the FNAF movie is meant to be some sort of a parallel, Michael definitely has some weird beef with Balloon Boy. He scares him like 2 times in the movie, and he's not even an animatronic. So there's something going on with Mike and Balloon Boy. Granted, again, the movie's a different continuity, but it's worth mentioning. As far as helpful placements go, I can think of 2. The first one being Into the Pit. In the trailer we get for this upcoming game, we see Balloon Boy on one of the posters in what is presumed to be the 1985 Freddy Fazbear's Pizza that Oswald travels to. That being said, there's also a poster of what looks like Toy Bonnie and what looks like Circus Baby. So on one hand, these could just all be cool Easter eggs. There's probably going to be a lot of just cool Easter eggs in this game, since Scott stated it will be a 10th anniversary game. That being said, if these posters are true, then Circus Baby, Balloon Boy, and possibly Toy Bonnie existed as characters as early as 1985 in the timeline, 2 years before FNAF 2. One other important placement to realize is in FNAF 6. Granted, FNAF 6, Freddy Fazbear Pizzeria Simulator, takes place long after FNAF 2, so Balloon Boy being there doesn't really matter for this question, but he's specifically paired up with two characters, the Drink Clowns, Lemonade Clown, and Fruit Punch Clown, everybody's favorite.
Fruit punch for everyone.
In the minigame where you have to scare children with these drink clowns, the children are Balloon Boys without their silent balloon and without the hat, but that's definitely Balloon Boy. This feels like an odd inclusion, especially because Helpy would have worked just fine here. Just put a bunch of Helpies there. But specifically, Balloon Boy was chosen, and looking at Balloon Boy compared to the drink clowns, it makes sense. Visually, their designs share a striking resemblance. They're both rotund, they have that stripe design, and they even kind of have matching buttons. And not to mention, they're all circus themed. But if they're circus themed, does that mean that these animatronics are related to the sister location animatronics? Well, let's compare them by design. Sure, the drink clowns do sort of resemble Circus Baby with the painted white face and red dots and general clown aesthetic, but granted, Balloon Boy does not really resemble Circus Baby or Ballora in any way. At least not in a notable way. Like, they both have red cheek dots, but a lot of animatronics do. But when I was going through sister location to try to find connections, I did notice something else that was way more similar. The random extra robots in the sister location bunker. Like, sure, the main control room has these weird faces and the weird fortune teller thing that like kind of look like Balloon Boy, but it's speculative. But in Circus Control, the area that you can see Circus Gallery from, you get Little Joe, this guy hanging in the top left corner that is almost one for one with Balloon Boy. Like, the colors are different and the hat is different. But besides that, you could say this is just like Balloon Boy's brother, and that's not a problem. Like, Balloon Boy, JJ, DD, Little Joe. He fits right in. This design is damning. And with all these extra characters, Balloon Boy, JJ, DD, and any other variant of that character would fit in with this crowd perfectly. They probably would have been wandering around Circus Baby's Pizza World if it ever opened. But okay, sure, great and all, why does that matter? I've been thinking a lot about what the next Steel Wolf FNAF game will be. Fallfest feels like a shoo-in. After all, Help Wanted's DLC is entirely Fallfest themed. And then you go to Help Wanted 2, which doesn't have a DLC yet, but not only do we get a poster about Fallfest in the game, we play multiple mini-games in what feels like a Fallfest setting. And on top of that, the claw machine that we get every single prize out of for the entire runtime has a background of Fallfest. Fallfest is shoved down your throat throughout the entirety of Help Wanted 2. At this point, it is very clear that this event is incredibly important and will probably come up in a future game. But all of this Fallfest representation has distracted a lot of us, at least myself, to the other representation we've been seeing in recent FNAF games. And that's for sister location. In every aspect of the Five Nights at Freddy's brand, sister location has been cropping up, especially if Balloon Boy was meant to be at Circus Baby's Pizza World. I mean, like I mentioned, the movie had 3 jump scares dedicated to a Balloon Boy figure. Like, again, Balloon Boy wasn't in there, but if he's included in this circus animatronic group, why was he there? This isn't even a FNAF 2 movie, it's FNAF 1. Why was he all over the place? Not to mention the Ella Springlock doll, which a lot of people are theorizing to be a older, more realistic version of Circus Baby in the movie's continuity. Then you look at the merch. Yes, I'm bringing up the Balloon Circus toy line again. Like, Balloon Circus was everywhere in merch for like 3 to 4 months. It had us all convinced that Ruin was going to be this like Balloon World circus themed thing, and it wasn't. But that doesn't mean that that idea is gone or never going to happen. It could have just been early. On top of this, the games have been flooded with it. Security Breach had that Balloon World arcade secret. That secret loft in the daycare was one of the hardest secrets to get in the entire game and required you to go across the entire map to do it. And your reward, for the most part, was this Balloon World arcade machine, dedicated to Balloon Boy and a circus that those characters would have fit right in. It felt like a loose end in the game because you could glitch it but nothing happened. Oh, okay, bye. But maybe it was supposed to feel that way. And then we have Help Wanted 2, which not only had 2 of the 3... You guys can't see this because I'm cutting these sections out. My cats are on a rampage. Literally this entire recording session, Casey is running back and forth. April has been jumping on the green screen. I'm losing my mind. So if I seem angry or frantic, that's why. It's also like 1 a.m., but that's neither here nor there. And then we get to Help Wanted 2, which had 2 of its 3 like title screen animatronics be sister location themed. Have Circus Baby essentially be the final boss as the last available challenge to you, have an entire sister location dedicated section, and in the lobby you can unlock, lo and behold, Lemonade and Fruit Punch Clown. Not to mention things like Carney and Carnival Nurse from the Helpy sections, which would fit right into the circus aesthetic. Helpy as a character even, which granted didn't appear in sister location, is designed like a fun time and has shown up in every game since FNAF 6. Not only has he shown up in every game, but if FNAF is to be believed, could be the key to unlocking the timeline in modern FNAF games. Not to mention Ruin, which not only had circus animal themed costumes for the Mimic to wear in that basement, but one of the endings, Brazil, had you looking over a cliffside with balloons coming up, almost as if there was a carnival just past the way. And not only that, there was that scrapped map in Ruin that said maybe tease Carnival, a code word for an upcoming game. I don't know about you, but Help Wanted 2 did not seem like a carnival to me, so maybe that was referring to what comes after it. Sure, Fallfest is all over Help Wanted and Help Wanted 2, but sister location is all over both those games, Security Breach, Ruin, the movies, and even the merch lines coming out. So what does this mean? The next game that Steel Wool makes for Five Nights at Freddy's, I think, is still most likely to be a game about Fallfest, but it might feature animatronics that we thought were from Circus Baby's Pizza World. The 1970 Fallfest poster really paints the picture of a circus with that big tent. And to be clear, going into this rant, circuses and carnivals are very different things. But as far as I can tell in Five Nights at Freddy's, those words are used interchangeably, so forgive me if I use them interchangeably in this rant. But that big top tent on the Fallfest poster is a place where animatronics like Carney and Circus Baby would fit right in, seeing that they're all circus themed. Even in the Balloon World arcade machine, we see this big top tent with balloons flying in the air, the same balloons that we might be seeing in the Brazil ending of Ruin. I have a feeling that Circus Baby's Pizza World was opened using the fan favorite characters from Fallfest, meaning Circus Baby, Ballora, Balloon Boy, Funtime Foxy, and Freddy even. Those characters might have originated in Fallfest with Carney and Carnival Nurse. And since Fallfest goes back so long, maybe originally these characters weren't even animatronics, but instead felt suits like we see in the basement of Ruin. Not only would this give us an explanation of going from Fallfest felt suits to Fallfest animatronics to sister location, but it would place characters like Circus Baby, Carney, and Balloon Boy in the very beginning of this timeline. There is really two problems I see with this theory. One, a lot of the evidence I use to get here is admittedly circumstantial. Like, this isn't a very strong theory, as compelling as it might feel. But two, if this really does predate so much in this franchise, Circus Baby's Pizza World would have opened fairly early in the timeline. Maybe not before Fredbear's, but probably simultaneously with Freddy Fazbear's Pizza, the first one. And if that's true, then the Funtime animatronics would have been built really early in the franchise, possibly before any of the deaths we know about, which then presents the age-old question: why the hell would William build essentially kidnapping robots? Because the Funtimes ostensibly are perfectly built to kidnap children. So why would he build those without anything like death-wise happening in the franchise so far? But who knows? If this new game is going to take place in Fallfest with these characters, maybe we'll get the reason then. So what do you think? Have I truly lost my mind? I think it's interesting that Balloon Boy could pretty strongly be argued to be one of the first characters in this entire franchise, but even stronger be argued to be part of Circus Baby's crew. I can't believe I never put that together until somebody asked me to look into it. Not to mention that Sun and Moon have always felt so out of place, and now they've been linked with that carousel, the same one that is probably from Fallfest. So maybe Sun and Moon are all the way back then like everyone else. Speaking of carousel, how funny, and this is definitely not planned, but it's a funny coincidence, how funny is it that the first time we've ever seen Balloon Boy in this franchise, he's in a room with a carousel? I don't know, food for thought. Like I said, this theory is pretty loosey-goosey and circumstantial, but it's definitely an interesting thought experiment. Am I way off base? Let me know in the comments. In the meantime, if this was too deep in the weeds for you and you need a break to get the FNAF out of your ears, I did do a full, horror analysis of Poppy Playtime Chapter 3 last week that I'm really proud of. You can check it out right here if you're so interested. If you want your fan art showcased on the channel, make sure to use #RideTart so I can find it. A huge shout out to the best channel members, the Dough Risers, and until next time, as always, stay toasty, slices.